Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining this episode of the On the Mark Financial Forum and Podcast. I'm here with my good friend, Marty Stevens-Heebner, who does all sorts of things in the senior space and beyond. So, Marty, thank you so much for joining us today. And please tell us who you are and what you do for our audience's awareness.
Certainly. My full name's Marty Stevens-Heebner. It's a mouthful. And the company I've had for 12 years now, Clear Home Solutions, we work with clients when their personal property is getting in the way. Think of realtors, they take care of the property, right? The house, the yard, etc. We take care of all the stuff in it. We provide estate liquidation services. We do hoarding remediation. We love a good hoard. And also, one of the things I love doing is we do move management for older adults and their families. From top to bottom, we can handle everything, starting with the floor planning, the sorting, we set up the new place. It's really to make that big transitional life as smooth and simple as possible, because it really affects every generation of the family. And then I also have my other company that I'm launching, Age-Wise Alliance, which is where older adults and their families can go to find the answers and professionals they need for all their later life challenges. So, yeah, lots going on.
Yeah, for sure. And with the Alliance, I mean, there's so many people that provide services that seniors need, and it's almost like seniors almost don't even know what they need. They don't know the professionals that they need or where to go get them. So I commend you for kind of compiling all that information in one place.
Thank you. It's so necessary. And the spark that got that going was I realized officially with what we do, especially with the move management part of Clear Home Solutions, is we're called senior move managers. And no one had a clue who we were. And if they had an inkling that there might be services out there, they didn't know how to find them. And then it hit me that there are so many other, and you know this, so many other helpful people with different services that people aren't aware of, like aging life care specialists, who used to be called geriatric care managers, geriatric psychiatrists, the different kinds of attorneys. A trust administration attorney is not the same as a family law attorney. So they're all different. So we provide a glossary of it's 80 plus services. They're all defined. So you can find out, first of all it is available to you because there's so much help out there. And I wanted to create a place where everybody could really see what's available and understand what different people do, and then just click through and be able to find great professionals who will take care of those services for them. Very important.
That's great. Yeah, well, Google's gotten so convoluted these days. If people are figuring out how to care for a loved one using Google, they're in trouble.
Yeah.
So
yes,
hopefully Google finds you.
Yeah. Yes. Much more
company.
Specific.
Yeah. And going back to, the home, taking care of all the stuff in the home, I think that's a really critical piece that people don't think about as well. Because oftentimes the seniors that we work with, very often the families are not even in the same state, let alone the same city. And they usually, I mean, you know this better than I do, probably don't want to deal with all the stuff, whether it be a clean out, and if they have valuables, and, doing it with somebody that they trust to actually clean it out properly.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? It's not just that they're out of state. To go and take care of it, it takes a really long time, especially if you're doing a clear out. And God forbid you're the executor. People don't realize when they are named the executor, when that person passes away, you become the CEO of the estate. And boy, do you have real human resource problems already right off the bat.
Yeah, you have no staff.
All the while you're grieving. So it's really a big process. And so it's not just the inconvenience of having to fly here. It's the expense of the airplane ticket. You may or may not want to stay in the home. So you have to pay for a hotel, the time off from work, and the distraction from work, time away from your kids. So yes, we can be that. One of my employees once said, we're the short-term family without the baggage. So
right.
That's who we are.
Well, that's good.
And also, this is what we do every day. We do it with compassion and know-how.
Right. And so what does that look like? So a family calls you and says, our loved one either passed or is in had to move into some sort of community or facility for medical needs. We need to clear out their home. What does that look like? How do you deal with valuables? Like all these questions are coming to mind, but how do you figure out what to do with the stuff? What does it all look like?
Well, 12 years in, we got this down, but
I'm sure.
I learned a lot in the first couple of years, let me tell you, and it's only become more complicated. So I'll take
Sure.
the move management one because that kind of explains all the different services. So we get contacted often by the older adult, but also often by the adult children. We go in, we start, well, first of all, we offer a free consultation and estimate. So we start off there. It's a project plan and estimate, and it's never carved in stone. You pay us hourly, and you work with us as much or as little as you want and need to, or people do, our clients do, so that they're in control of the project because it's such a tumultuous time. And we're kind of that ocean of calm in a very difficult time and circumstance. But we start out, for example, with floor planning because they're usually going from a 2 or 3 bedroom house or bigger with a garage and all of that into maybe a 1-bedroom apartment in a beautiful senior living community. So there's a lot of downsizing that goes on. And we know how to guide people through it. We do not make the decisions. We work with our clients to figure out really what their favorite, most useful things are. And then we start sorting with them, figuring out what they want to take and determining what of the things that they don't take, what we try to sell. Because we partner with a wonderful company called Max Sold for online auctions and estate sales. And they're terrific. They're terrific. So, but before we start the sale or even the donating, we do all the sorting. We make sure everything's packed really well. We oversee move day and make sure the movers are moving along. And, as things get unpacked, we organize everything, make it feel like home. And unless people want a complete redesign, we try to make their new home a reflection of the home they've left behind. This is really important, especially if they have dementia. So it feels familiar. And they're not terrified when they move in there because relocation stress is a real thing. Well, for anybody, whatever age. It's not relocation, it's dislocation because you feel out of joint till, you're in the new place.
It's painful to move no matter what age you're at. Yeah.
It really is. And then usually circumstances can vary, but ideally, once they're moved in, then we start dealing with the estate sale, the selling of items, and then donation pickups. And there's always some final things to haul away. And then the home is realtor ready for them. And everything has been respected. The kids have gotten the different things that they want. Maybe there's some things going to friends. We can either ship them or they can set times to help them pick them up. Yeah, it's a lot of hand-holding, and we really love it because it's blending efficiency with respect. It's so important, and we love what we do.
Yeah. And I mean, we deal with this all the time as well with people, they may want to hang on to their home or they're coming to grips with the fact that they can't or won't hold on to the home. And that's like such a huge emotional piece just by itself, let alone the fact that they've just moved from, being independent and now they're in some sort of community where they're getting the help that they need. But that's a huge transition of itself to then also be giving up the emotional attachment to your home where, in this day and age, I think more often than not, seniors have lived in their homes for a very long time. And you made a great point about how they're not really necessarily show ready for an agent, right? So you have to get the stuff out. You have to, we work with a lot of real estate agents. So I know when you're showing a home, you want it to look brand new and not lived in for 30 or 40 years. And in order to do that, usually the first step is to get this personal belongings out of the home so you can stage it and sell it for top dollar. So
Make it
and
beautiful.
that in and of itself would probably pay. I'm not saying you should raise your prices over whatever they are, but they'll make up that money in just being able to sell the home and have people walk in and just feel that wow factor of seeing the home that's been cleaned up a little bit.
And also that way they don't have to, it's so stressful going through this huge shift in the life of an entire family. And family just normally butts heads at times like these. It's just normal, no matter how loving and wonderful the family, it just happens. And if there are, how shall we put this, Mark? Difficult family dynamics, should we call it that? Because you and I
never heard of that before.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes we're a little, you and I were kind of a referee.
Yes.
Doing our best. And we try to do that and just be fair to people. And I call it the emotional flu of moving. Because what you have to tell people say, I feel like I'm losing my mind. It's like, oh, that's normal for moving, which isn't really a lot of comfort, but it's normal. You're moving. It's one of the top 3 to 5 stressors, including divorce, death, marriage, all of that. It's proven in statistically and in studies. So it's just really a difficult time, and it's making sure everybody feels respected. And especially when you allow when you invest in professional help and assistance, especially expert help and assistance, it gets done faster. And also, you're not nearly as exhausted because you can, our clients are not. I'm sorry, I'm so used to like talking
Right.
to a client or something,
No, I understand what you're
or an
saying.
audience, but they're just not. They can get more sleep, and they know they have an ally, and if they have questions, we know how to answer them. If they need other resources, we've got them at our fingertips, just like you do.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's the goal, is to be a resource for the families, and it's usually we have the same issue. It's usually the adult children who are kind of driving the bus, so to speak, on what to do with the stuff, with the house. Are they going to keep it? Are they going to sell it? And we're helping them figure those things out as well. But it's oftentimes not the senior that is the final decision maker on these things. And sometimes, like you said, you have conflicting opinions, to put it lightly, of what should be done with the stuff, with the home, with whatever, as the senior transitions into a different stage of life. So it can definitely get complicated. And when it comes to finances as well, like is the side of it that we deal with, it adds a whole nother layer, because some of these adult children, almost like they're fast forwarding time to when the senior's not around anymore. And they're already thinking about, well, I want the house, or I want this account, or this valuable item, or whatever it may be. So it definitely gets complicated for sure.
Well, and also, as we know, sometimes friends, neighbors, or caregivers insert themselves and
Right.
try to get people to put them on the will and that sort of thing. That's why it's so important to have people, again, have professionals going in at least occasionally, whether it's a care manager or someone like that, just to make sure there's no abuse going on
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
something like that. That's a whole scary thing. It's
It
interesting. In
is.
the work that we do, unless a client has late stage dementia or never has a moment of lucidity, because early stages, even mid stage to a degree, people can, especially in the early parts of the day, and by that I mean like 10 to 2 p.m., 10 a.m. 2 p.m., they can make decisions for themselves. And especially because we want to make sure in our business we take the things that feel most personal to them, their favorite photos, glasses, knickknacks, that sort of thing. So usually we treat them as the client in terms of that kind of decision making, because we want to make sure that they're surrounded by the things that they really care about. That's really important. But yeah, thank God for adult children. I was that adult child. We actually say we work with the GA in the family. That would be the designated adult. I'm sure you're that for your family, Mark, and probably that most of the people listening to this are as well, if not all of them.
Yeah,
That's why they're
our
listening.
our podcast is definitely more about speaking to the adult children and other decision makers, more so than
Yeah.
the seniors themselves. That's the role that we play. And we feel fortunate enough to be able to play it and to help our family members. My family is all on good terms, and everybody's just looking out for everyone. But yeah, we go through those decisions as well. Fortunately, we haven't gotten to the point of having to do any cleanouts yet. But when we do, we'll be calling.
Well, some point it
We'll know who to
happens.
call. So if
Well,
you're so
thank you.
yes, of course, of
Well, and
course.
actually,
So
I'm writing a book called
yeah, tell
Family
me.
Baggage. Yeah, Family Baggage: How to Move Your
Oh boy,
Parents Without Losing Your Mind. That
that's a
yeah,
great name.
thank
That
you.
is
We
a
had a lot
great
of
name.
fun figuring it out.
Yeah.
Basically, it provides all like checklists, how tos, the pragmatic and logistical side of it, and also how to deal with all the emotions, the family dynamics that we were speaking about, and also just all that goes through you going through it. Because I've lived through it. You may have as well. I'm not sure if you have or not yet. Have you? Not
Not to
yet.
that degree yet, no.
Okay, but you will. At some
Well,
point, you
we've
will.
done some other things to prepare financially and just get on the same page, but we have yet to have to make a move or anything like that.
Oh, that's good. I felt so lucky. My mom died when she was young. She's only 58. But my dad made it to 90, living back in Buffalo, my hometown. I'm now living in LA. And dad never remarried. She was the love of his life. And he had everything documented. He cleaned out almost all the house. Although I must complain that the one thing he hoarded were the tax returns back to 1957. He passed away in
Just in case
13.
the IRS come knocking.
Thanks, Dad.
What did you do in 50? Good thing they didn't ask about 56. Yeah, that would have been trouble.
He's a Depression era baby. A lot of
Right.
them are like that.
Yeah.
But he did so much preparation for us. His will, estate plan, healthcare directive were fully complete. He'd show me where the safe deposit key was. And it was still so hard, so hard. And for people where their parents don't have that in all of that in place, it's so difficult. And there are professionals who can help you. Just know
Yeah.
that there are people who can help you. Yeah.
And that's something we talk about often on this podcast is creating a financial team. And that could be for seniors, it could be for homeowners. I wrote a little book. I just give it out as a gift to our post-closing clients, usually first-time buyers, and it's called "You've Just Closed, but Your Job Is Not Done Yet." And the idea is, okay, now you own a home. Now you need to protect it. You need an estate plan. You need life insurance. You need all these things that will figure out what happens, to that property long term. Because the last thing you want to do is have it end up in probate. But it takes a village. Like there are so many components to aging and buying a home. All these things are similar threads that you have depending on what stage of life you're at. Obviously, they're a little nuanced, but you need so many different professionals. And I think people oftentimes get overwhelmed and unsure as to what they need and who can help them. And so they just end up like piling all the stress on their own shoulders and not really knowing how to release that or to deal with it so that they can maybe actually spend time with the senior and not dealing with the senior's stuff or the senior's financial challenges or whatever it may be.
Or just losing sleep about who do I have to hire for my parents? Because literally, especially as parents get significant older, and it's inevitable for all of us, we start getting frail. And so the child is really concerned about their parents' physical health and well-being and making sure they're living that their lives are fulfilling as possible. And just having that weight on them while they have a full-time job, while they're probably taking care of, helping their adult kids make their way in the world. It's so much. And that's why Age-Wise Alliance, that's why I created that.
Yeah,
So that
exactly. I mean, that's why I think that's such a great service and directory because people don't know what they don't know. That's partly why we do the podcast is to raise awareness of these types of things of like what professionals can help you and highlighting people in our sphere that can help people through different situations and different aspects of aging and helping parents get through that process. So, we're definitely aligned in that educational space about just telling people what's out there, what resources are out there, because it can be a huge stress relief to know that there's somebody else that can help with these things. So okay, so let's get into stories. Let's get some stories from you because I'm sure you've seen a lot of crazy things. So I'm going to put you on the spot here. So tell me a crazy story of something like the Van Gogh you found in the garage or something. There's got to be something.
Oh, there's a lot of them.
I'm sure. Pick one or two of your favorites.
There's the skull in the box story. There's the $50,000 in a bag of old bra story.
Those almost don't even need the story. I kind of get the idea of what they were.
You get the gist of it. Well, and the skull in the box is really this. So again, 12 years in business. The first couple of years, I of course worked in the field. Since then, I now get to run the company, which means
Sure.
Human resources, finances, marketing, sales. I really miss working with clients. And I was one of those weird people who actually enjoyed packing because it's very meditative.
Right. Yeah.
One of those weird things. But with the skull in the box, so one of my wonderful teams was there. By the way, everybody's an employee. This is key. They're covered by all our insurance and stuff. So two of my employees were there working with a fiduciary. And it was a hoarding situation. The parents had already been moved to an assisted living community. They had their son living with them who eventually had to be conserved. In other words, had a guardian because I believe it had to be mental illness. Now, it was such a bad hoarding situation that we actually had to call in a hazardous waste company to come in and go in there in their full body suits. And then as they brought things out, that's when we sort through them. We knew what PPE was before We all knew what PPP
Right.
was. So they had PPP on,
Yeah, for
PPE
different
on, pardon
reasons.
me, and going through things because you like the $50,000 in a bag of old bras that was found in a hoarding situation. You just never know what you're going to find.
Yeah.
And so we're sorting through things, and then, or that my staff is, and it's going, and I figure it's going well. I'm not hearing anything. And then we use Slack for team communication. Up comes a message from the lead on that, Kate, what's her name? And she said, "We found a skull in a box. What should we do?" And,
That's a tough time to be the boss to make that decision.
well, being the professional that I am, of course, I responded calmly and coolly with, "Holy crap, are you okay?"
Right.
And so the way it worked out, a fiduciary was the one who had brought us on, an excellent fiduciary. I'd love to say who she is, but I'm worried about confidentiality, so I better not, I
Yeah,
better
that's
not
okay.
mention her name because she's wonderful. She's in Pasadena. But I said, basically ask the fiduciary there who's on site, ask her what she wants you to do, and then let me know, call me. And the fiduciary told them to go home. And 17 squad cars later, all the cops came. They eventually determined that this skull was it was a real skull, but it was for dental modeling and education, apparently.
Okay.
Like
Apparently the box didn't have a label on it for what it was.
something,
Yeah.
something. And as I said, the son had, now was under someone else's official care and control. So that was good. But that is one of the legends.
Yeah,
of Clear Home
that would
Solutions. It's not a
qualify
legend, it's
for
true.
sure. Talking about
Woo,
having
that was a wild
skeletons in the
one.
closet. Now you've got
I'm never surprised now
yeah,
with whatever we find. Never surprised anymore.
right. I'm glad it didn't turn into a homicide investigation or
It was
something
horrifying
like
because
that.
that's immediately where your mind goes.
Sure.
Yeah. But, it worked out.
Yeah. I'm not aware of any of those in my attic or anything, but I never go up there, so you never know.
Yeah,
Never know
they're talking
what's
about
there.
bodies, bodies, hidden bodies. It's like, well, we had a hidden skull.
Right. Yeah, that's not. And then what happened with the stash of cash that you mentioned that you found, the other story?
That was in a hoarding situation. I think we had 4. We had a team of 4 on that because it's really teamwork. It's so important.
Yeah,
My
I'm
staff
sure.
is
It's a lot
it's
of work.
amazing. Um, and they were just sorting through things. And so they haven't, and this is what we've learned. We look through everything. We look through every pocket of clothing. We fan through every book and check in bags and stuff that are just lying around because you
Right.
just never know. Because on that same client, we discovered $10,000 in a pair of old socks.
My gosh. Wow.
You just never know.
Yeah. Well, and especially in those situations, especially I think the older generation, they're used to like money under the mattress. Always go under the mattress first.
They remember the run on
Never
the
know.
banks. I mean, the current older, they actually call them what is it they call it, 85 plus, like the oldest old. Of course now so many are living into their hundreds, so that
Yeah.
may shift eventually.
Yeah.
But they if they did not live through the Depression and or World War II, they were born right after it, and so all the trauma their parents experienced was passed along to them. So everything has value, and they're impacted by that huge run of the banks during the Depression and World War II and all its rationing and shortcomings and fear. It was very traumatic for that generation. I call them they were the greatest generation because they defeated Hitler, but they were also the deprivation generation because there was a lot they couldn't have.
Yeah. Well, that's not something that you just forget about, the next year or even 10 years later. It's kind of ingrained in you, I would imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a trauma.
Yeah. It spills out in lots of different
Years of it.
ways. Yeah. So what do you do in those situations where, let's say you stumble upon something really valuable? Maybe it's not a bag of cash because you could figure out what to do with that, but I don't know, a painting or a sculpture or something. Like, how do you determine if any of these belongings have significant value?
Well, if we're going through pockets and clothing and we come up with a ring that looks like a diamond ring, it probably is.
Right. Yeah.
Not always. But we're not appraisers, but we have great people who we can go to. And also great, if we have never found the Picasso in the attic, but if we were to, we could approach Bonhams, Sotheby's. You and I both know Dana Ehrman of Luxury Selling
Yes.
Solutions,
Sure.
who really have that marketing list of people who will really invest in those very valuable items. And one of the things I love about auctions, especially the online auctions that we do with MaxSold, is that it's an auction process. So it's not just the client who wants people to bid up and up and up, but so does the platform. And of course, we do on behalf of our clients because we want them to get the most money possible.
Sure.
So that's a good way. And especially since we're in Southern California, they have such a huge marketing list. It's remarkable. And it's really interesting the kinds of things that will fetch a lot of money.
I was actually just going to ask, like, what type of stuff do you usually list on there?
Well,
like if somebody went on, what would they find?
Usually it's your average household full of items. That's a great way to let those go and make some money doing it. We actually had a situation where we were dealing with a woman whose brother had passed away, and he hoarded a lot in 2 different homes. He was a mining enthusiast, we'll call him. He had so much old mining equipment, some of it really old. It was and geodes and things like that, samples. And we thought, okay, let's see what happens. Well, I think we had 5 or 6, maybe more, different MaxSold auctions because there were so many things. And I think one of them fetched over $35,000.
My gosh. For a piece of equipment? Wow.
Yes. And I wish I could remember what it was.
Right. Well, I wouldn't know if you had a name for it anyway. I wouldn't know what it was.
Exactly. But that's the beauty of doing that because, again, the marketing lists are there and enthusiasts know whatever they're interested in to go and look for these things. You get the people who love their Yadro, people who might be looking for a certain kind of furniture, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, especially vintage, things that have been around for a long time, antiques, things like that. I would imagine you find some crazy stuff.
Yeah, grandfather clocks, who knows?
Yeah, exactly. Those can be very valuable. So, okay, great. So
not
maybe
necessarily,
maybe not.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah.
So, okay. So as we start to wrap up our session, one of the things I love asking people is if there was one thing you wish everyone knew and most of their problems would be solved related to your industry, what is that one thing that you want to leave the audience with that you say, God, I wish everyone knew X? What is X?
Start downsizing now, 1 hour at a time. If you're not planning on moving anytime soon, it's okay. Like once a month, spend an hour going through one area. Maybe it's a closet shelf or 2. Maybe it's the junk drawer in the kitchen. We all have them. Sometimes more than one. Just slowly but surely go through it. For one thing, I remember an immediate family member, she and her husband had all these things they want to do with their house. This is years ago. But they didn't do them until right before they were selling it. And so they didn't have the chance to live in it when they'd done all these improvements. And so I see it's the same thing with the downsizing, decluttering, is do it now so you can live in that for some time and enjoy it. Plus, when you find things you want to give away and, you give it to one of your kids, a neighbor, a friend, other family member, you get to experience that one-on-one and they thank you. And that's really beautiful because otherwise, if you're in a rush because you're moving and all of that, that really doesn't happen. Well, I mean, items get to the people they want them to get to, but it's just so rushed, it can't be enjoyed.
Yeah. I mean, we have a memento in our house. I wish I could show it to you on screen here. It's this old phone that sits on the wall and it opens. There's like a panel that opens up and you hold the thing in your ear and there's like a dial on the inside. My kids have no idea how to dial a phone number like that. You open it up and you're like, dial this phone number. They would have no idea, just push the button.
Where are the buttons?
Yeah, exactly. And why is it not a glass screen?
Yeah. Yes.
So generations change, but that's what makes those things valuable. But like it's a memento that my family will always have. And that was a phone that was in my childhood home. And, it was I'm not that old, so it wasn't like, that was a modern phone at the time. It was really an antique at that time. And now,
Yeah, yeah, I was
30
gonna
years
say.
later,
Yeah.
it's just a cool thing to have in our house. And it's like, it has a personal feel to it. So I can understand how this stuff carries meaning, and, it's something that reminds you of childhood or whatever it may be. So those
It's
things
a
are
piece of
important.
history.
Yeah, it really is. And a unique piece of history to your family, because there's obviously different connections to these things. Yeah. Well, kudos to you for all you do for families and helping them. I know that's a difficult transition for people to make, and you're making it easier for them, and for that we thank you. So thank you for all you do, and good luck with the book and the launch of the new company, and hopefully we'll be one of those people on there that can help people with financing whenever that comes to fruition. So,
That's
but Marty,
wonderful.
thank you
And
so much.
well, you're welcome. Thank you. And thank you for all you do too, including this podcast, all the work professionally that you do with your clients, helping them deal with their finances. I mean, talk about a lot of emotions.
It's tricky. Emotions and finances are very much intertwined. That's what we
Oh,
learn every
yes, for
day.
good reason.
Yeah, but that's why, people need people like you and I to help them untangle things and make them more simple than they might seem on the surface.
Yeah.
It takes a village. That's the lesson of this session today. It
Yeah,
definitely
you
takes
really
a
want to
village.
build that team or that alliance. Yeah,
Yes,
that alliance of
absolutely.
professionals around you.
Absolutely. All right, Marty. Well, thank you so much. And thank you to the audience for joining us for this session of the On the Mark podcast and financial forum. And Marty, if people want to find you, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
They can go on our website, clearhomesolutions.com or agewisealliance.com. I mean, they can just go to Agewise Alliance and search for professionals. But yeah, you can contact me at info@clearhomesolutions.com. And the same thing with Agewise Alliance. I'd love to hear from you. Yeah. Answer
Perfect.
any
All right. Well,
questions.
hopefully your phone will be ringing off the hook after
Oh,
this session.
818-376-0125. 818-376-0125. Thank you, Mark.
There we go. Everyone will know how to reach you. So, Marty, thank you so much. Look forward to seeing you again real soon, and we'll keep in touch.
You got it.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Bye bye. Thank you, everyone.